I would like to do is I'd like to take these kind of like minor icons. I'd like to be able to click on them and inspect them in a much larger view. And I would create a separate template here that is much larger, maybe have a little bit more flourish and kind of details to it about this information here. It maybe looks similar, but it'd look a bit more special, right? So this is almost like a small view, and then I would also have a very large view on top of that. And that's going to kind of be like our first page interaction. So let's create a function, and we'll call this, let's call this set active gotchamon. Okay, because the idea here is if I click on one of these, they've almost become like the active one. That's what would let me inspect it more. And we're just going to log inspecting, right? And if we come back to my model, I can add an on click to my whole card. And if you kind of remember, there's layers that we kind of have to go here. Gotchamon controller, set active gotchamon. Okay, I can jump over to my console real fast. If I click on Oslo here, inspecting, just inspecting. So they're all inspecting when I click on them. Something I should do, if I am adding a click handler to a div, I should give this div the role of button. That's just a little better UI there, better practice. We need to know who I'm inspecting though. So we probably want to bring in a gotcha, the gotcha name. Which gotcha name am I clicking on? And then we can pass this through the string interpolation, this name. Oh no! We've gotten this error before, right? Where it tells us that essentially that name is not defined at our button on click. If you remember, it's because we need that name to be a string after our interpolation. So we almost have to trick the interpolation by adding in extra quotes to our button so it doesn't think that it's some top level variable there. Let's also add to our console log the gotcha name so we can see who we're clicking on here. So inspecting Oslo, inspecting Justin, Xanther, Jung, Herbert. Sweet. And kind of like before in our last one, probably all the controller is going to do this time. Now it is going to tell the service that I have inspected something. So we'll make a gotchamon service. Do not export this class for the service. The class is gotchamon service. Okay. We export an instance of the class. Export const gotchamon service. New gotchamon service to create that singleton, right? We're sharing around the one version of the service around, okay? And then in here, gotchamon service, set active gotchamon, pass the gotcha name down. I will declare method set active gotchamon in there. You don't have to do that. You can just come in here, set active gotchamon. This designate gotcha name. And let's log service gotcha name really fast. Oslo, inspecting Oslo, service Oslo, inspecting Xanther, service Xanther. Now we need to do kind of the same idea that we did on our last lecture. We need to convert the name, right? I only have Oslo, I only have Xanther, and I need to essentially get back out my original object. So I'm going to say const selected gotchamon equals app state gotchamons. I want to find the gotchamon where the gotchamon name is equal to the gotcha name, right? So when we pass this name like Oslo down, go and find the original object that has a name that matches the name passed by the button click. And then we can log our selected gotchamon. We'll add a little emoji in here so we can better determine it. Point. Ooh, yeah, like they just selected it, right? And then we'll see that it's kind of wrapped up, but if we open up that target, Oslo picture rarity, type in intellectual. Cool. If I click on like Jung, it does that. If you get it so that no matter what you click on, it's always your first one, like Oslo. A very common mistake is to forget one of the equal signs here. And a side effect of that is that you will always collect, or you will always find the first one. Oh, that one went and found Xanther too. Go find your name. The name will become Xanther, but if you see, Xanther is not an intellectual and he is not common. Same thing with Jung here, right? The name is right, but the rest of the content is wrong. Like we can see, it clearly says orangutan in there in the picture. But this would change the name of the first thing and then select the first item. So that's a very common mistake to see there on that find, is that you maybe forgot one of your equal signs and you selected only the first thing. Cool. So I've selected them. Now what do I do? Well, this is probably a case for our app state to actually have an additional property on it, like active gotchamon, okay? And we essentially want the active gotchamon to equal whatever we selected. When the application starts, right, our app state is a representation of what the application starts as. We don't have any gotchamon when the application starts. So in this case, we actually say the active gotchamon is null. We want to change this out though. We don't want this to stay null, but we're just kind of saying there isn't one right now, right? Until I click on one, there is not one there, right? So here, we would probably say app state active gotchamon is equal to the selected gotchamon. So we're basically taking a name passed by a click. We are finding the original object, right? That original class, gotchamon, and then we are making it the active one. So this will no longer be null after I've clicked on something. It will essentially be whichever one was just clicked on, right? And I can change all of that data back and forth. But it's really hard to test and actually tell if this is working, right? But something that's pretty interesting, if you actually go look at your app state here and open this target at the top, even though this log happened a long time ago and we can see active gotchamon null here, just the way that some of these console logs actually happen, you can actually come in here and open this after the fact and check what the state is. So we can actually see that it's currently Oslo. It's not going to change in our face if we click Xanther. So something that we can do, it's kind of hard to test if that's actually happening. Something that we could always do is relog our app state, just the entire thing, right? If I click Xanther and look inside my app state, I'll be able to tell that the active gotchamon has become Xanther here. If I click Oslo, I can open there and see that became Oslo now. So that's one way to test it. Another good way to test is to create that draw. So we set one. We probably want a draw active gotchamon 2, right? So we have a draw in our app state for this array. Probably need a draw for this particular item too, so that when this item changes, I want to draw it. If I ever changed anything in here, I'd have a separate draw, right? So I'm trying to keep these items or these draws separate from each other. So draw active gotchamon. Plus the active gotchamon equals app state active gotchamon. Pull that information out. Call this the active content equal empty string, and then you're going to say something along the lines of active gotchamon dot for each. But for each does not exist on an active gotchamon, right? Kind of following into a trap that every draw is the same. And when we're trying to draw this content, it's always going to be the same. For the most part, we've always drawn things like this. We've always had multiple things to draw. We've always needed to create some sort of loop. and kind of draw a lot of that stuff. Not every single one of them, but many of them, right, had some sort of loop involved with it. In the case of draw active gotchamon, there is only one thing to draw, which doesn't mean I need to loop over something and repeat the process. I really just have one thing that I need to put in here. So I'm actually just going to say active content equals active gotchamon. And maybe let's just start with the name, just see if we can get the name to show up on the page. And then we need an element to actually draw this stuff into. So maybe we'll do another section, ID, active card. We'll do that. Const active elm equals document get element by ID. Active card, active elm, inner HTML equals active content. Okay, and then we just want to make sure that we draw this active gotchamon after the set happens. So we'll say this dot draw active gotchamon right here. And we should see that if I click on Justin, Justin's name appears. Click on Jung names. So we can see that information come in. I could also potentially use the little card in here as well. And we could just see another version of that little card show up. Now I want to build a much bigger card, a much fancier card, but it's probably good to just test with something small before you try and, really spice things up and make it look kind of crazy. However, there's something interesting here, right? Because when I said active gotchamon and hit dot here, it had no idea what was available to us. When I was in this draw function and I hit dot here, little card came up, right? We got our little card, our name, our picture, we got everything. I don't get that IntelliSense here. And that can, hamper our development process, but that also makes things a little bit trickier to type with, right? I probably have to go back to the app state, or I have to go back to my model and I have to go, what is that thing called? What's going on here? Right? It just increases the chance that I'm going to make a mistake, create a bug, create an error that I now get to fix. So how come it's not actually giving me the properties of my active gotchamon? Well, that's actually because the JavaScript doesn't actually know what's going to be there. It only knows what is there right now. In our case, active gotchamon is nothing. Because the application starts with nothing here, and we put null here, then it isn't anything. It doesn't have a name. It doesn't have a picture. It doesn't have type, rarity, or even that little card yet, right? It doesn't even have that. So that's why our controller is not giving us any IntelliSense, because null is nothing. There it is, nothing there. It doesn't know that after we select a gotchamon, that this becomes a object rich with information. Right? It doesn't know that that's going to happen. So what we can do is we can actually tell our app state that I know this value is null, but you should treat it like it's something else. So we can actually create a comment here with a couple stars. If you just do / / you'll get this comment here. And then you can do at type curly brackets gotchamon. So now I'm basically telling VS Code, I'm telling the editor, don't treat this like it's null, treat this like it's a gotchamon. It is a type gotchamon, okay? If I come back to my controller and I say dot, we can see all those properties show back up, right? So now I can actually see what I have available to me. You'll also notice that it was pretty upset down here because it's saying, hey, wait a minute, type gotchamon can now be turned into a string, right? So I had to pull out one of these properties that was a string. So that can be pretty helpful when you're developing, is using these types on empty content. Here's another version of that same type for the example.js. These effectively do the same thing. This one's just written a little bit differently. This works just as well. So let's design this other card, right? Let's make another getter. Call this get, call this the big card. Okay, and we will return say HTML. And strategy I actually like to do is I actually like to just come back into my index HTML and maybe just somewhere else, maybe not right here. I will kind of create like a dummy section and create essentially that card. So we'll call this the big card. Oops. Big card. Big card is going to have, maybe we'll do like H3 Oslo class text, and let's go create a big card class. Maybe we'll do it right here. Big card width. I don't know. Maybe we'll do 50, 500 pixels. I don't often do fixed pixel amounts for things like that, but I think in our little card game here, it kind of makes sense. Our collectible cards here kind of makes sense. I do really like these borders, so I'll probably just kind of keep some of these similar things here. So let's add these borders in as well. Not too bad. Probably want to make it actually look bigger. Kind of double up in size. Oslo padding 2 em. That's way too much. 1 em. 0.5 em. Cool. And then we'll do card. What do we call it? Card name. Kind of looks like that. Image. Image link. Paste that in there. We're going to do big card image width 100% height 200 pixels. Object fit contain border 1 pixel solid black border. I don't want black, I want like something like that. I think 500 is probably too big. 400. 350. 350 looks pretty good. And then we do need the type and we do need the rarity. What we'll probably do is we'll probably create a little div here, span that is going to be intellectual. Every time, one extra L in there. Class BG primary, padding next to rounded, pill, text light, something like that. I think this image Y1, space that out a little bit. Now we'll do another div class, text, center, star. Maybe we'll add a star emoji in for how rare our little Oslo guy is. Okay, and this will be our big card. I think this looks pretty decent. Class D flex justified content center. Margin Y2. Yeah, that's not bad. I think we actually want this up here. This is kind of my play pretend area. Okay. I'm going to copy this big card out and then comment the rest of this out. Go to my Gotchamon here and just paste that in. I do have an extension that is called format selection as HTML. That didn't do anything. Format selection as HTML. Okay, kind of made it look a little bit nicer. And yeah, let's just change this information out. This dot name, this dot picture. Let's do this dot type. And then we'll come back to this rarity part here, but we'll just say this dot rarity. Okay. I think instead of doing the BG primary right here, we also throw in this dot type. If you remember, we kind of had those different colors pop up. So I think that would look really cool. We showed that in that little bubble. Ooh, the BG card too. We might do something different with the BG card, because honestly, this should probably have this type on it. We'll just see what it looks like. So we come back over here. We set little card. Let's make it the big card. Justin, Xanter, Jung, Herbert, Oslo. Dang. Not too shabby. Looks pretty decent. I think there's a bit more that we could probably do with it. We could probably create some more specific styles here, like span, or a span with intellectual on it. Should maybe not be exactly cornflower blue. Maybe this will be like a little bit deeper of a color, like that. And we kind of copy the same thing for our grazer and our biter. Okay, let's make sure those are in the same order. That bugs me. Oh, there we go. Move things around a little bit too much. Right. Need to go pale violet red to something a little darker. And we'll take our medium sea green, put that in there, and then we'll pick something a little bit darker. So we go Oslo, Justin, Xanter, Grazer, cool, Herbert. I think all that's looking pretty good. We probably want maybe a similar thing. I think we had that drop shadow. I like that drop shadow on that image. Honestly, whoever's editing this could probably just speed through a lot of the code here. We might also do, so we could do background image, and I could go yoink some cool transparent backgrounds. Not too shabby. Bad background color. Maybe I can go find something a little fancier. What kind of crap is that? How about that one? Ooh, not bad. Not too bad at all. Those cards look nice and pretty. I kind of like that. So yeah, we got our different cards here. Cool. Selecting our different cards. Again, very nice feature. Come in here, maybe add in something very rare, right? Like create Hammond. Hammond is a nymph. Copy image link. Hammond is a Stomper. We'll say this guy is ultra rare. That just means that we now have to come in here and create Stomper background color. Let's go with that. We'll go with coral. And then we have a span Stomper. Kind of this orangey color, right? Now we got Hammond in there. Oh, Hammond. ultra rare stomper, right? So you can really kind of, have fun with it and add in as many characters as you can in there. Let's try and turn this rarity into stars though, because that's something that could be pretty cool. We could create another getter, say like get rarity stars. There's no point in overcomplicating this. We can just do a if rarity is equal to common. Too many m's in common there. Return star, right? If you are uncommon, return 2 stars. You are rare, return 3 stars. You are ultra rare, return 4 stars, right? Something along those lines. And then this rarity could just be rarity stars. So instead of it actually referencing the rarity, it'll come down here and return these. And that's a pretty cool way to kind of change that value out for a visual display, even though the rarity actually hasn't changed. We've just changed it through these different stars, which could be pretty cool. So we could get, more complicated with this. If we wanted to, we could go back in and add these descriptions back in, add more styles, and we might do more of that because it does create a lot of kind of fun opportunities to create more complex getters, styles on top of styles and things along those lines. But what I would kind of like to do is maybe not just look at the different cards that we have here. I'd like to maybe introduce another function here where we kind of simulate user collecting these cards. So we'll kind of create like a big button and they will essentially get a card at random. It'd be nice to be able to add in some sort of weight here so that common cards don't come up, or common cards come up more often than like ultra rare cards and stuff like that. We're probably just gonna start with a random. It'd be nice to be able to add a weight to things that have rarity on it, but just random at first is probably a good idea. So let's come in here and we'll create a function and we'll call this draw random draw. I don't want to call it draw actually because these are draws and it's not drawing data to the page. I'm just trying to, we'll call this collect random gotchamon, okay? Log, thank you, dice, yeah, something like that. We'll put that in the string, okay? And honestly, this is just gonna be a button that is always there. So really, I can just put this onto the page right away. And we'll do class, make this a row, and then we'll do button, class, btn, btn, primary, we'll say gotcha, gotchamon, something like that. Then we will font style italic, font weight bold. Is it font style italic? Font type italic? I'm not 100% sure what that one was. Just font weight bold, and then maybe we'll put in ISK. Yeah, kind of that kind of logo in there. So ideally, we click on this button. That fires that function off. Come in here. On click app.gotchamon's controller collect random gotchamon. Dice, 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 dice. Okay, very cool. If I go into this controller, we more or less just want to tell the gotchamon service collect random gotchamon. Okay, we'll declare that, and then we'll jump over here. We'll put these in the same, oops, I'm doing this again. Put these in the same order. This kind of comes after here, right? I am going to say we could make it weighted pretty easily if we put all of them in order. So as long as our gotchamons are ordered and they're rarities, so that the commons come first and the uncommons and all of those come later, this could actually be pretty easy to do. Let's do the random one first though. So we'll say const random index equals math.floor math.random. We'll do const gotchamons equals appstate gotchamons math.random times gotchamons length. So that should give us a random index, and we'll say const random gotchamon equals gotchamon at random index. So this should give us a random number essentially between 0 and we got what, 6? So it should give us a random number between 0 and 5, and then that'll count as an index. And we should essentially have a random gotchamon from that list whenever we click this button. So we got Oslo that time, we got Xanther that time, Herbert, Hammond, Jung, Xanther, Justin, Oslo, Justin, Herbert, Hammond, Jung. So that seems to be pretty rare, just kind of looking at these console logs here. So this would work pretty well for just totally random. So we're going to stick with just kind of the random one for now. I think that works totally fine. We can maybe add in that kind of weighted randomness later.